Hey everyone, and welcome back to the WellBe podcast. This podcast is designed to arm you with the knowledge and awareness you need to get and stay well your whole life. Somehow we're just about halfway through 2023. We're gearing up for the July 4th long weekend here in the US, and I'm nearly 30 weeks pregnant. The baby countdown is on. I'm excited as always to share a wrap-up episode with you guys. This is the second one of 2023, and a WellBe wrap-up is an episode where I cover and synthesize a handful of the most important pieces of health research and wellness news that came out over the past 3 months, or the last quarter, that I think you really need to know right now. In this wrap-up, I'll be sharing 6 big health stories, plus a few notable updates to some past wrap-up stories at the end. Before we get started, remember you can read the written version of this episode with tons of research links over at getwellbe.com, where you'll also find information about the WellBe non-toxic product database, which has a sleep section, by the way, and our other programs, including a Roadmap to Healing, which is a program designed for people trying to kick chronic health issues, and the Spark Health program, focused on detoxifying your home and habits to reduce inflammation. Okay, now let's jump in. Story number 1. Findings discovered in Spain provide nearly definitive evidence that people in Europe were taking hallucinogenic substances around 3,000 years ago. Researchers discovered hair at a burial site in Menorca, Spain, that contained 3 psychoactive substances, atropine and scopolamine, which induce hallucinations, as well as ephedrine, which boosts energy and alertness. You may have heard of ephedrine, which is an active ingredient in meth and used to be in diet pills. The locks of hair were found in a large cave that contains more than 200 graves and is thought to have been an important site for funerals and burial-related rituals. Researchers believe the hallucinogens may have been used for the rituals held at the cave. The findings, which were published in the journal Nature, are the earliest pieces of direct evidence of our ancient ancestors taking hallucinogenic drugs. In the past, researchers had reason to believe that prehistoric drug use went on, but only through indirect evidence like depictions of psychoactive plants in drawings or paintings. We've been closely watching the exciting developments in the world of psychedelics and our health, and these new findings show that these powerful substances have had a place in human health for far longer than we previously knew. We're not saying that this means we should all run out and drop some LSD right now, but it does suggest that perhaps these potent plants exist for a reason, and that there are things to be learned from them. Considering all the serious side effects that tend to come with man-made pharmaceuticals, we see this emerging field as holding great potential for developing medicines that are both natural and effective. If you're curious to learn more about psychedelics and your health, check out some of our previous wrap-ups to learn about breakthroughs on how psychedelics affect our neurons, the remarkable effects of magic mushrooms for treating depression, and why researchers at Johns Hopkins are calling for psilocybin, the active ingredient in hallucinogenic mushrooms, to be legalized. And stay tuned for a new interview with the acting director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Psychedelics Research on this exact topic later this summer. Story number 2. A coalition of U.S. environmental advocacy groups issued a report warning about the health risks of using PVC plastic to make pipes that transport drinking water and urged public officials to choose different, safer materials. The report, released by the environmental nonprofit Beyond Plastics and 2 other groups, outlined the health consequences of drinking water that comes through PVC pipes. PVC stands for polyvinyl chloride, which is made from vinyl chloride, the very same toxic material that was released during the train derailment in Ohio earlier this year that triggered a major public health crisis. Vinyl chloride is known to increase cancer risk and can cause hormone disruption, and according to the report, there is legitimate reason to believe that chemicals from the PVC pipes can leach into the drinking water itself. The Consumer Product Safety Commission banned the use of vinyl chloride in aerosols way back in 1974, but it's still allowed to be used on other products, like drinking water pipes, which might not make a lot of sense, but here we are. The PVC pipe market is on the rise and is largely being used for water, sewage, and irrigation projects. A recent survey found that contractors, engineers, and municipal officials anticipate using PVC in almost 2/3 of all their upcoming water projects. And the reason so many pipes are being made with PVC these days is, ironically, because of an effort meant to protect our health. In 2021, the Biden administration allocated $15 billion through the EPA's Drinking Water State revolving fund to help communities across the country replace harmful lead pipes with safer alternatives. The issue? They gave no guidance at all on what those alternatives should be. And since PVC is cheap, it became the default. The report authors said that communities should choose safer alternatives like stainless steel and copper, even though they are more expensive. Despite headlines you might read about efforts to protect public health, like, for instance, the allocation of funds to replace lead pipes, it's important to remember that, unfortunately, big companies and big government don't have your health at the forefront of their mind. If they did, wouldn't they have done extensive testing and specified what the pipes should be made of? As always, you need to be your own best advocate and researcher and protector when it comes to your health. And though you can't control what kind of pipe the water you drink or shower in comes through, you can take steps to filter out any harmful contaminants. Check out the WellBe Water Filter Guide to learn which water filter is the best choice based on your zip code. Story number 3 is a two-part story. First, recent research shows that hazardous chemicals are present in more common consumer products than we previously thought. Then, a new law in Washington state provides a bit of hope that this might change. According to research published in May in the journal Environmental Science and Technology, more than 100 types of common consumer products contain at least one and often several chemicals known to cause health problems. The researchers identified 33 different volatile organic chemicals, or VOCs, that are known to be hazardous to human health in products across 105 different consumer categories. Some of the most concerning chemicals were, bear with me, diethanolamine, which is known to potentially cause cancer and is banned in Canada and the EU, and formaldehyde, which is also a known carcinogen. Other chemicals on this list are linked to hormone disruption, reproductive issues, and developmental delays, among other serious health problems. What's more, since VOCs are released into the air, the potential hazardous health effects of these chemicals aren't limited to the person using the product, but can also do harm to those in their home, including, of course, young children. About 2/3 of the products researchers identified as containing toxic chemicals were personal care products, like shampoo, lotion, and soap, as well as household cleaning products, which contain numerous chemicals as well. Thankfully, you have the WellBe non-toxic product database, which I developed specifically for this reason, with tons and tons of non-toxic personal care and household cleaning options, all vetted and rated and easy to purchase. Those findings are pretty grim, but at least one state is taking action to stem the tide of harmful chemicals in our home. Back in April, the Washington State Legislature passed the Toxics-Free Cosmetics Act, which is currently the country's strongest law against toxic cosmetics. Under the new law, which takes effect in 2025, companies are banned from manufacturing, selling, or distributing cosmetics that contain certain chemicals and chemical classes. The banned chemicals include formaldehyde, lead, mercury, and PFAS, also known as a forever chemical, which, if you'll remember from last October's wrap-up, PFAS can quadruple your risk of developing liver cancer, and they're regulated in public drinking water now. Companies that violate the new law will face a $10,000 fine per offense, but they have until 2026 to sell off existing stock that contains these chemicals. It's worth noting that there are other laws regulating the use of hazardous chemicals in personal care and cosmetic products, but they're all much weaker than this new Washington state law. On a federal level, the FDA only regulates a small number of chemicals found in beauty products, and most others are regulated by a patchwork of state-level laws or left completely to the discretion of the manufacturer. If you live in Washington state, yay! You're about to be much more protected against toxic chemicals than the rest of us. Though, of course, remember that only 9 chemicals are being regulated, and there are plenty more harmful ones out there. But for the rest of us not in Washington state, we should pay close attention to this alarming new report about harmful chemicals in consumer products. Because even while the amount of chemicals in the products might be relatively low, these are products we use over and over again, maybe every day, maybe multiple times a day, maybe for years or decades. And so the exposure builds up over time, which can lead to adverse health outcomes. Your best bet? Replace all your conventional personal care and household cleaning products with ones that have been vetted as containing zero harmful substances. Again, the WellBe non-toxic product database is truly such a great resource. With over 2,000 products across 20 different categories, definitely get access. Go to getwellbe.com. It's the easiest way to make sure that you're not getting chemicals in any of your products. We'll be right back with story number 4 after this quick message. I don't know about you, but I never listen to the end of a podcast anymore, so I'm hopping in here to let you know that the best way to stay empowered and on top of your health is to be in the WellBe community. So head to getwellbe.com/subscribe to make sure you're in like Flynn. On getwellbe.com, you'll learn about our online programs to help you go deeper and make life-altering changes to your health, and our awesome non-toxic product database. If you're more of a social media person, let's be friends on Instagram. Find me at getwellbe. Okay, now back to story number 4. This story is about a recent and incredible longevity finding. Researchers looking into what allows some people to live past the age of 100 have discovered that centenarians, as they're called, have uniquely effective immune systems. The study, published in the Lancet journal in early April, involved sequencing the immune cells circulating in the blood of 7 centenarians. When they cross-referenced their data with publicly available databases and performed complex computational techniques, they found that the subjects' immune cells remained highly functional even in their old age. This is in contrast to the typical pattern seen in human beings, where the immune system generally becomes less responsive and adaptable as a person ages. What's more, the immune profiles they observed showed not that these centenarians had managed to avoid infection. Quite the contrary. They had instead a long history of exposure to infections and an increased capacity to recover from them. They don't know yet whether this enhanced immunity is because of genetics, lifestyle, both, or a confluence of multiple factors. Now, we all want to live healthy, long lives, and according to this research, the key to that is your immune system. That makes sense, right? Ultimately, these findings show that your longevity is equal to your ability to fight off infection. I'm going to say that one more time because it's so important and it's at the heart of so many things that we talk about at WellBe. Ultimately, these findings show that your longevity is equal to your ability to fight off infection. And so increasing immune resilience is the best thing you can do for your lifelong health and longevity. Of course, that's easier said than done. The immune system is infinitely complex, but because we know that your gut health is closely connected to your immune function, I believe 70 to 80% of your immune cells are in your gut lining. Focusing on the things that impact gut health is a great place to start. That means not only what you eat, but also your stress levels, your sleep, the medications you take, and more. To make sure you're doing the right things to support your gut, download the free WellBe guide at getwellbe.com on how to improve and optimize your gut health. Story number 5 is also a 2-part story about the latest in cancer treatment and prevention. First, we have an update on treatment. Based on an abundance of recent research, oncologists are beginning to understand that less aggressive treatment might actually be a better choice for treating cancer. Then, one new study suggests a less aggressive alternative for preventing cancer, and that's vitamin D supplementation. All right, so first up, at the American Society of Clinical Oncology conference in Chicago earlier this year, there were several presentations driving home the same point. Some patients do better with less invasive surgery or treatments. A study of patients with pancreatic cancer showed that patients who had laparoscopic surgery, robot-assisted minimally invasive surgery, had similar outcomes to patients who underwent more invasive open surgery. Another study showed that women with cervical cancer who had a simple hysterectomy, meaning just the uterus and cervix was removed, had similar outcomes and fewer adverse side effects than women who had what's called a radical hysterectomy, which is a surgery that removes the uterus, cervix, part of the vagina, and a wide area of ligaments and tissues around these organs. And yet another study showed that rectal cancer patients who opted for stronger chemo but skipped radiation had similar outcomes to patients who got both chemo and radiation. All of these studies are part of a growing body of evidence behind a strategy called de-escalation, or an effort to design cancer treatments that reduce side effects and cost and improve patient quality of life without hurting their odds of survival. Speaking of side effect-free interventions that can help fight off cancer, a recent study out of Germany found that taking a daily vitamin D supplement can significantly reduce your cancer risk. Researchers analyzed data from 14 studies, which included over 100,000 participants total, which is a lot, that compared people taking vitamin D3 to those taking a placebo, or a sugar pill. While taking large amounts of vitamin D intermittently seemed to have no effect on cancer mortality, meaning it wasn't effective at keeping cancer patients alive, they found that participants who took vitamin D3 daily and consistently reduced their cancer mortality rate by 12%. So what this means is it was better to take the same one pill every day than 3 pills, say, twice a week. The benefits were particularly pronounced for people over 70 who started taking vitamin D before getting a cancer diagnosis, i.e., it's really helpful for cancer prevention. Well, consider us thrilled about this whole de-escalation concept. It's basically what we've been saying for years over at WellBe. The best thing you can do is to take measures to prevent disease. But once it sets in, you should always choose the least invasive option with the fewest side effects, which is why we love the idea of naturopathic oncology, as this is really at the root of how they practice and treat cancer. It's amazing to see researchers and conventional doctors coalescing around the same idea. Let's say it all together now. More aggressive doesn't mean more effective. In the meantime, let's all add a vitamin D supplement to our daily routine if you haven't already. If you live above a certain latitude, I believe it's 37 north, which is about the Virginia, North Carolina state line on the East Coast, chances are you need a vitamin D supplement anyway, at least for half the year. You'll find practitioner-grade vitamin D brands in the WellBe non-toxic product database, which I've already spoken on and which you can get access to on getwellbe.com. Though I always recommend getting your vitamin D levels checked first with a blood test before determining the right daily dose. Story number 6. A recent study from the think tank Sapien Labs found that there's a strong correlation between when a young person gets their first smartphone and their mental well-being throughout life. The global study included almost 30,000 young adults from around the world, which is actually a lot of young adults, and examined the relationship between mental health and when each subject got their first smartphone. The results were clear. The later a person got a smartphone or tablet they could carry around with them during childhood, the better their mental well-being as young adults. Receiving a smartphone or tablet later in life was associated with more self-confidence and a better ability to relate positively to others, while getting a smartphone at a younger age was associated with more suicidal thoughts, feelings of aggression towards others, and a detachment from reality. Every year delay in getting a smartphone or tablet made a difference in mental health later in life. While these trends were stronger in females than in males, they were seen across both sexes and were consistent in all parts of the world that were included in the study, which was basically the entire world. There's no denying that there's a mental health crisis among young people today. Rates of depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, eating disorders, and other mental health issues are on the rise. And there's strong evidence to suggest that smartphone, internet, and social media use are playing a role in this trend. If you're a parent, the study should provide you with a bit of clarity on how to handle devices with your kiddos, as well as a bit of hope that there are concrete things you can do to protect them from the negative effects of technology, specifically waiting until they're well into adolescence before giving them a smartphone. And if you're not a parent, the study should still provide a little guidance. If devices are doing this much measurable harm to kids, chances are they're not doing great things for adults either. It might be smart to start setting some boundaries around your phone, whether that's daily screen time limits, a device-free room in your home, one fully unplugged day a week, or whatever else works for you in your life. All right, now I've got a few quick updates for you. First, as we reported back in October, Johnson & Johnson's baby powder was pulled from shelves amid ongoing lawsuits claiming that asbestos in the powder causes cancer. Now, the company has reached an almost $9 billion settlement with plaintiffs in the various cases. Next, a new study is suggesting that those with a high genetic risk for type 2 diabetes can reduce their risk of getting the disease with moderate to vigorous physical activity, aka exercise, showing once again that your genes are not your fate. Next, researchers have previously hypothesized that our more sedentary lifestyles are at the root of rising obesity rates. But new research suggests that it's not due to less physical activity, but rather to declining basal metabolic rates, aka how many calories your body burns simply by maintaining your basic bodily functions like breathing and metabolizing food. They're not sure why this is happening, but they hypothesize that it may be because of our changing diet over time. In terms of what it means for your daily life, the takeaway here is that unfortunately, exercise alone is unlikely to prevent obesity if you're eating more than your body needs. And lastly, I'm sure we'll hear much more about this in the months and years to come since the drug is so new, but doctors are now reportedly witnessing a spike in ER admissions among Ozempic drug users. The trendy weight loss medication, initially designed for people with type 2 diabetes, can have serious side effects, including diarrhea, nausea, constipation, bloating, blurred vision, kidney failure, gallstones, malnutrition, and lack of appetite. The official prescribing guide for Ozempic states that side effects could include possible thyroid tumors, including cancer. Now, I've said it 100 times and I'll say it again. If something seems too good to be true, it is. There are no shortcuts in life, or at least none that don't have some very serious cons. All right, now that's it for the second WellBe wrap-up of 2023. Is there someone or multiple people in your life who might benefit from knowing this information? If so, please share this episode with them or share the link to the written version on getwellbe.com, which you'll find in the show notes. Knowledge is power, and it's always the first step towards change. Remember when people didn't know how dangerous cigarettes were? Now they do. And they make very different choices because they have this knowledge, and hundreds of millions of lives around the globe have been saved as a result. Now, while you're on getwellbe.com, definitely become a WellBe Insider to get new content when we release it, delivered straight to your inbox. If you haven't already and found this episode helpful or interesting, subscribe to the podcast. This way you'll never miss a new episode and they'll be delivered to you whenever we publish a new one. And if you love the Get WellBe podcast, please leave a quick review. It really helps so much for helping us show up in search results. If you already have, then thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is your host, Adrienne Nolan-Smith, and thanks again for listening to the Get WellBe podcast.